Neo Geo world! Powerful, exciting, dynamic! Baseball stars, professional! Retrogaming. The future is now. SNK.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Player One Start. Today we are continuing our review of the Neo Geo Advanced Entertainment System. And in today's video, we're going to take a look at the launch of the AES here in North America, as well as taking a look at the launch titles. But before we get too far into it, I do want to mention, if you haven't seen the previous videos in this series, you can watch them before or after this video, but they will be linked at the end of the video and in the description down below. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started.
Perhaps there are some people who are not familiar with the company name SNK. SNK produces and sells the coin-operated Neo Geo hardware and software, as well as the Neo Geo home entertainment system. Our home system holds the same power and capabilities as our coin-operated machines.
SNK, up until this point, had been a big name in gaming in Japan. However, the North American audience was not as familiar with this brand, except for, as I previously mentioned, with their NES titles. SNK's initial plan to break into the home market was actually to only offer a home system available for rent. This system would be considered prohibitively expensive, as it would have all of the arcade hardware that the major arcade machines would have. The Neo Geo was announced on January 31st, 1990 in Osaka, Japan, and was released on April 26, 1990. It was around this time that news of a new gaming console from this company had started reaching North American gamers through North American gaming publications. Looking through issues of Electronic Gaming Monthly at this time, there are sporadic articles about this mysterious system coming over from Japan. This article mentions that the Neo Geo will provide an experience unlike any other console that is currently out on the market, but for a system that would provide such a vastly different gaming experience, it didn't really receive a lot of press coverage. The fact that it was very easy to port Neo Geo games from the arcade systems to the home system allowed the AES to have a large and varied game library at launch. This wasn't really typical because usually there wouldn't be very many games available when the system would be released, due to the time it would take to create games specific for the platform. The Neo Geo AES made its debut at the 1991 Summer CES show. The systems were shown off to the press, however some gaming journalists had noted that the system was extremely hard to get, partially due to its high price points before the system would be released. It was also here where people would be officially informed about the tech specs and the capabilities of the Neo Geo, marketing it as a 24-bit system. In previous publications I had seen this thing listed all over the map, as a 16-bit system or even a 32-bit system. But despite what this console would offer, it seemed that many did not take it very seriously due to the high price points. Here you can see in the promotional video they showed at CES, the Advanced Entertainment System would offer many features that were not present in other consoles of the time, but I can only imagine that gaming journalists were wondering why on earth would they release a system that is 3 times the cost of its competition. This was also the same CES where the Super Nintendo would be unveiled to the North American public, the TurboGrafx would show how it was still trying to stay in the game, and the Sega Genesis was just starting to take off. Evidence of this can be found around the same time in the Electronic Gaming Monthly comments section, in which gamers are complaining that the price point is way too high. It is actually at this point where coverage of the Neo Geo is actually not very strong, at least in the printed materials of the time. The Neo Geo only becomes mentioned by gamers as this dream system that they wish they could afford, or they wish they could get if they had the money, but very few people thought they would ever own one. SNK, though, only expected the system to be sold to a niche market, only appealing to those that could afford this system and wanted the latest and greatest. The system would end up launching on July 1st, 1991 here in North America, and it would have a large launch library to go with it, with games from a variety of genres that would appeal to most players. The system at launch would have one of 2 pack-in games. The first one would be NAM 1975, and the other title would be Baseball Stars Professional. Now in this part of the video, I was planning to show you what a typical boxed Neo Geo AES title looks like. The problem is, when I posted this picture online of my Neo Geo AES carts, I found out that, well, my copy may not be a typical example. Let's go ahead and take a look at NOM 1975, which is the game that I got with my console. Now I will note that the NOM 1975 box art that I have here is not original to the system. In fact, if you look closely, not sure how well this shows up on camera, you can tell that somebody has photocopied this box art off of some sort of online source. Even still, if you look at the back, you may see this Neo Geo Freak reference on the bottom. First off, it may be obvious this box art is a reproduction because the fact that this game released in 1991, and this has a World Wide Web address which wouldn't be used until 1992. Looking at the web address and seeing the name Neo Geo Freak, you may wonder, well, what is that company name? Are they associated with SNK? Did they re-release some Neo Geo games in the future? That's why this box art's been modified? Honestly, that's what I thought, and I didn't really think anything of it until I posted this image online. If you go to this website as of the making of this video, you get this strange landing page that has no links on it that you can get to. So I decided to do some research into this mysterious company and find out why this version of the case box art exists with this company name on it. From what I was able to find out, it appears that Neo Geo Freak was a company consisting of about 2 people who decided in the mid-2000s to start repackaging and distributing unsold inventory of SNK stock of Neo Geo AES titles. I soon discovered that many Neo Geo collectors that are very passionate about collecting for this system really don't like the Neo Geo Freak editions of these games. And that is mainly due to their practice of destroying original box art to repackage them with reprinted box art, including the manuals as well. During the process of repackaging, Neo Geo Freak would make corrections to poor translations in game manuals and the box art, as well as redesign them to fit the later style of Neo Geo games, so everything would look uniform when you started collecting all of the games. So I can see why many would be upset with this process, as they are literally destroying gaming history as they are repackaging games. According to a lawsuit I was able to find, including Neo Geo Freak, it appears that SNK authorized Neo Geo Freak to do this as an official partner of SNK. However, many gamers who collected the Neo Geo Freak box art repackagings suspected that the games were being pirated or bootlegged in one way, shape, or form. Sadly, I was not able to find a lot of information about this, so whether or not this is true is still up in the air to me. But this does raise a point about when you collect games for the Neo Geo. The Neo Geo collecting market is filled with fakes, bootlegs, and reproduced box art. It was only after it was pointed out to me that my box art was not original that I investigated further to find out that the box art had been photocopied. However, when looking at the game manual and comparing it with known original sources of the game manual, it appears my manual is authentic and original to what would have been packaged in here. So if this is a Neo Geo Freak repackaging, the manual should also have been corrected as well. My suspicion is, at some point in time, someone decided to reproduce the box art and try to sell this game as authentic and complete in box. However, since I knew that this was not the original box art style, I took that into account when making my offer to buy this game. After some more investigating, I am convinced I do have an original AES copy of the cartridge as well, so at least that part is authentic. Due to the high price of collecting Neo Geo games in general, and even more so the fact that they are more expensive than that to collect them complete in box, I can only say that this is the only example I have of a complete in box game that I can showcase for this video. Due to the high expense of AES games and the low expense of MVS games, as well as these readily available 161-in-1 carts, I decided to use one of these adapters with a 161 MVS cart to play games on this system that I wouldn't normally be able to afford. And because I was never able to get that cartridge to work reliably on my system, I decided to go ahead and get this Neo SD cart to be able to load up any game that I wanted to play for this system. This is accomplished by loading games onto a micro SD card and then inserting it into the cartridge. The cartridge then acts as the game, allowing you to flash the memory inside of the cartridge, and the system recognizes it as a regular game. Unlike the MVS multi-cart, I am also able to load on any games that are not included in that collection. This allows for homebrew and even tech demos to be loaded on if you can get it to run on your system. There is a version of this cartridge that will allow you to play NeoGeo CD titles on the AES, but that is not the edition that I have here. Getting back to the launch though, I decided to go ahead and start with NOM 1975, as that was the first game I popped into the system, and it would have been many people's first game, as it was a pack-in title available at the launch of the console.
Summer 1975. A nightmare awaits me. I am being recalled to Torm headquarters. Do I have to go back to the hell again?
Upon booting the game, this title is already living up to what you want to see in a launch title. There are several different features available on this console that are featured in the opening screen. The first off was voice acting, which was something that was very seldom seen due to the large space required to store the samples. The voice playback is also much clearer than what we were getting on the 8-bit Nintendo Entertainment System. There was also scaling of what looked like background pictures, but they were most likely made out of sprites. This game is a shooter, but it's played in the point of view of a gallery arcade shooter. The story is set in a very fictionalized account of the final months of the Vietnam War. The story follows the soldiers Silver and Brown as they enter into the war once again to rescue an ex-military army scientist and his daughter Nancy, who are kidnapped and presumably imprisoned in the interior of Vietnam by the North Side terrorists. The screen will automatically scroll to the areas where you need to go, and you can only move your player from right to left on the screen. To help control where you aim on the screen, while you're firing, your player will stop moving. This led me into some incredibly frustrating areas of the game, where I needed to move out of the way of obstacles and continue to shoot. Enemies are constantly firing at you, and there are several that you need to be constantly firing back at. And I did find this to be the most challenging aspect of the gameplay. In terms of graphics, I do notice that the sprite animations are very fluid, as they're able to have more animation frames than what would have been standard on cartridges of the time. For me, this and all of the digitized speech added into the game is where this game is using all of its megabit glory. Overall, I did find this game entertaining, and I did like the fact that it was a different type of shooter than I'm used to playing. However, I couldn't help but wish that this would be a light gun shooter instead. I've never been a fan of playing light gun shooters with a joystick, and this is what this really reminds me of. Reviews of the time of this game were mostly positive, with reviewers noting the advanced graphics and clear digitized speech, but many were critical of the advanced difficulty. Retrospective reviews of this game have also been positive, with reviewers praising the gameplay but criticizing its short length. I've seen a lot of reviews for this game be around 8 or 9 out of 10, but I would give it around a 7 out of 10 personally. Overall, not a bad introduction to this system.
Information from headquarters. New strategy. Contact Allied plane and invade by parachute.
Dynamic! Baseball Stars! Professional!
Baseball Stars Professional is a baseball arcade video game that was originally developed and published by SNK on April 26, 1990. It is the follow-up to the original Baseball Stars on the Nintendo Entertainment System. This game plays very similarly to the other Baseball Stars titles, where players compete in matches against computer-controlled opponents or other players across 2 different ballparks. There are only 2 modes featured in this game. Tournament is the main single-player mode, where 1 player must compete against CPU-controlled opponents in a season, and there's also Versus, which, as the name implies, is a 2-player mode, where 2 people can compete against each other. And in my opinion, that is the best way to play this game, as playing against the computer I find is often one-sided, almost as if this game was designed to eat quarters in an arcade. Most of the original teams featured in the first Baseball Stars return in this game, although some features from the first game were removed for a more arcade-style approach of the sport. If you insert a memory card into either the MVS or the AES, players are allowed to save their progress and jump into their last match saved at a later time. This game received mixed reception from critics when it was originally released, with some reviewers praising various aspects of the gameplay such as its presentation, visuals, and the quality of digitized voice samples, but many were divided when it came to the actual playing of the game. Review scores of this game are all over the map from several publications, with some game reviewers rating it at 8 out of 10, and others rating it at 2 out of 10. It really is all over the map, but for me personally, since there's not a huge draw for me personally as I'm not a big baseball fan, and I don't have the most nostalgia for this game after playing it on the NES, so I am more inclined to get this a 5 or a 6 out of 10. It's playable, but I think the CPU opponent is incredibly difficult.
It's out of here!
It's well back in the stands. It's a homer out of here. The crowd is going crazy. And as he rounds the bases, he loves to egg that crowd on. And proud he should be. He hit that ball a country mile. He just loves to hit homers here in this park.
So those were the two packing games that were available for the Neo Geo AES at launch. And in the next video, we're going to take a look at the rest of the launch titles, as this video is getting a little long, and we still have many more to go through. So stay tuned for that part coming next in this series, when I finish looking at the launch titles. I hope to see you then. If you like this video and you'd like to help out with future projects on this channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Also, if you enjoy the content of this channel, please remember to click on this subscribe button. Again, I want to thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.